to the brain or to the head, and his family has been told of this. Um, they told the family on Tuesday, which is today, told the manner of death was suicide. Um, my question is, there was no weapon found. If there was, nothing was said about it um, at the time. Um, there's still no information about the wet bag, about um, the notebook, but I think we can pretty much gather from the fact that he committed suicide that he was probably the culprit. I'm not saying that Brian is the reason that Gabby died, because we don't have any DNA to match up underneath Gabby's nails. If she had DNA underneath her nails, nobody has come out with that information to my knowledge. Um, but as of right now, we know that the manner of death was suicide. That's what they've released. Hi, John. So my question is, did they even did they have scrapings under Gabby's nails? Did it contain DNA? If it did contain DNA, did they try it against Brian's to see if it actually was Brian's DNA? And if so, that would pretty much tie the case up. I mean, that would be I guess that would be the bow on top of, and there's no good way there's no good ending to this case. There's no good ending to the Petito Landry case. There's nothing good about this case. Yes, John, it's you. Um, there's no good story to this. There's no good ending to this case. Two families lost children. And my question is, where's the gun that caused his death? Um, you know, if they found all that other stuff laying beside the body, where's the gun? Because the gun's heavy. If they found the wet bag and they found the notebook and they found everything else, the gun should have been laying there. So did they find the gun? That's my question. There's no mention of a gun found. So that would be my first question. Um, this is just CNN released the article that Brian Landry's autopsy shows he died by suicide. That's what the attorney said. Now, um, now that that's been released, I'd like to know what articles they found, because where's the gun? I didn't see a bag that had, they carried a wet bag out. I didn't see a bag that had, normally when they carry a weapon out, it's bagged in a special bag with warning tape, Um, I mean, it has to be bagged in a special bag because it had a bullet hole in the head, I would say. It had the exit wound. So if he stuck a gun in his mouth and he pulled the trigger, he would have had an exit wound. Or if he stuck the gun to his temple and pulled the trigger, it would have had an exit wound. So he had to have had an exit wound. But my question is, where's the gun? Because the gun wouldn't have floated downstream. The gun's heavy, and the notebook and everything else was beside the body, around the bodies, and the gun would have been there. So my question is, where's the rest of the stuff that they found by the body? because they showed the family walking out with the wet bag. I mean, the police officer walking out with the wet bag. What was in the wet bag? Where's the gun? That's my question, because there was no mention of a gun at the scene. And of course they corded it off and they sectioned it off and they had a tent up so nobody could see what was being found. But I would be interested to find if they found a weapon on scene. I'm sure they did, else they couldn't have said he died by suicide, because it says Brian Landry died by suicide from a gunshot wound to the head. An attorney for the Landry family told CNN on Tuesday. It says Chris and Roberta Landry have been informed that the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head and the manner of death was suicide. Attorney Steve Bertolino told, Landry remains were found in Florida Nature Reserve last month. He disappeared just days after his fiancée, Gabby Petito, was reported missing. So something about that, seems a little off if they didn't find, they didn't find a gun. And the attorneys reported this, not the police department. And I think the medical examiner in the last case made such a huge blunder about the Petito case when he made the statements he made, that the attorney coming out and making this statement, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just not so sure that I mean, they've had the body for how long now? And nobody's said a word about it. They've had the bones all this time. 3 weeks they've had the bones. 3 weeks. 3 solid weeks they've had the bones of this boy, and they just now said that the attorneys come out and said, oh, he died from suicide. The attorney's known all this time. Something about this, I don't know. It just seems like they knew that they were just getting confirmation that the boy was dead from suicide. So, that's what's sad. That's what's really sad. If you guys are watching me from another social media, I apologize. I don't know you're here. You have to speak up. You have to leave a message. I don't know you're here if you don't. I humbly apologize. Haps has changed the way they're doing stuff. I don't even know if you're watching my channel. I don't even see if people are here. I can't tell if people are watching my live. I don't know what's going on because I'm on my computer. There's no numbers to tell me what's going on. So I just thought I would do this update to let you guys know that I was doing a timeline about the Gabby Petito, Brian Landry story. But, all in all, the sad part about it is that 2 families lost their children to a horrible situation. And if Brian, in my heart, I have to say that if Brian didn't kill Gabby, then why would he kill himself? I mean, that's my question, right? If Brian wasn't guilty of killing Gabby, why would he go off into the woods and shoot himself? I mean, what reason would Brian have for leaving Gabby's body, or leaving Gabby in the woods somewhere, and then coming home without her and and his family getting an attorney? I mean, like I said, I don't have kids. Becky was the only child I ever had, and she was like my daughter. She is like my daughter. And I looked her dead in the face and I said, if you ever did anything like what they accused Brian of doing, your butt would have been in the seat of my car and I would have took you to the police department myself. And I said, that's the sad part about this family. They covered up what he did if he did it. They never said a single thing. They covered up what this boy did if he did it. And instead of making him pay the price for what he did, they let him go off into the woods and do what he did. Because I believe, and there'll be nothing that ever changes my mind on how this situation happened, is that I believe his father was a very controlling person. I mean, and let me say this, and I've seen it time and time again. I am 50 years old. I have never been in a abusive relationship, but I have had friends that are in abusive relationships. I've had family that have been in abusive relationships, and it never stops at one person. There's always children involved in those relationships. And I've seen it go from child to child to child. Like I've seen it go from father to son on down. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again until there's one child that says no more, until they break the cycle. And so I really do believe that this man, his father, may be an abuser, just like he was. And I believe Brian, and there's nobody going to tell me any different, that if Brian's DNA was under Gabby's nails, because there's nobody going to tell me that while he was strangling her, she didn't do this and, you know, you know, clawed her throat and not get his DNA under her nails. There's no way. His hands had to have been scratched up. His arms had to have been scratched up. Somewhere on his body had to have been clawed up, because she had to have been clawing at her throat to get him off her. If his DNA is not under her nails, then somebody needs to do something, because Brian didn't kill her. Whoever strangled that girl needs to be found. But if Brian's DNA is under her nails, then why did his family cover this up? And, you know, Gabby's family has been so mature about this, and I just cannot. I thought, you know, Brian was abusive to their daughter. If Brian was the one that did it, I'm saying, they're saying Brian committed suicide, right? So why did Brian commit suicide? If Brian committed suicide, he had to have done the murder. That's the only reason the boy would have went off and killed himself, right? Wouldn't that stand to reason? So now you've got two families that have got kids that are gone. One family mourns the loss of their daughter, who was murdered by another family's son, and they don't even have the gumption to answer the phone when their daughter's gone missing. But they have got grace. Gabby's family has got more grace than I've ever seen, because they said, you know what? Gabby's gone. There's nothing we can do about it now. In my state right now, because I'm dealing with a lot of anger, in my state right now, if something happened to my niece, I cannot tell you what would happen. I cannot tell you what would happen if I found out something happened to Becky or AJ or Jake or my parents or my sister. Like, I couldn't tell you on the level of anger that would hit me right now, because I'm already experiencing anger. Not as bad right now because I'm working through the process, not like it used to be, but I'm experiencing anger on a level that I have never experienced it before. So I would be afraid of what would happen if something happened to my child or to my babies. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know that I could be that graceful. Just don't know I could be that graceful. But for Brian's parents to be so nonchalant Not answer the phone when they call, when they know that Brian, when they knew that Brian came home without her. I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just sad. It's a sad situation all the way around. And like my mom says, we can't change the outcome. We don't have a dog in this show. Like we don't have a pony in this show. It's a dog and pony show, and we ain't got a dog or a pony in this show. We are outsiders. And you know what a lot of people say, there's um, a lot of internet sleuths that want to do armchair sleuthing. Well, I'm going to tell you something. The sad part about it is there's a lot of those armchair sleuths that could have figured out that Brian wasn't home before the police department ever knew it. If people had been allowed to see some of the stuff that was going on, somebody would have figured out that that was Brian's mother that left in the car. That was Brian's mom that came back in the car, and that it wasn't Brian. I can tell you that right now. That's what aggravates me is they want to talk about people like me that do crime commentary. I don't profess to know anything about crime. I've done a crime scene. I went to the when I did my um, when I did the class at the sheriff's department, we took care of a crime scene. We did one whole half of the group did a group together, did the crime scene together, and another half of the group did took a look at the same crime scene. And so we had to work a crime scene, and it's amazing what detectives do. So detectives are nothing more than people that read the scene. Granted, they've gone to school for criminal justice. Some of them have. Some of them, well, most of them have gone to college for criminal justice. They take criminal justice and they graduate. But you're not taught how to be a detective. It's learned. It's learned. So don't poo poo on the armchair detectives, because I can tell you right now, there were cases where armchair detectives, case in point, the guy that killed the cat online. You don't kill cats. That's one of the internet rules. You don't kill kids and you don't kill cats. Two rules that there are: you don't kill kids and you don't kill cats. And one guy murdered a cat on camera and he posted it online. And people around the world found that guy. So don't tell me that people are not smart enough to figure things out. I know they can. So that's what I get irritated about. But when people start saying that Brian's still alive and all this other garbage, guys, drop it. Just drop it. Brian's dead. Gabby's dead. Just stop your nonsense. Stop the nonsense and listen to what you're saying. Because it's really sad. It's really sad. So that's going to end it for my Gabby Petito, Brian Landry coverage, because um, unless they come out with that they ran the DNA, if there was DNA under her nails, they never came out and said that they found any DNA on her body or anything like that. They never said if they were testing any DNA or anything like that. Unless there's any more updates to this story, this is the end of this crime. I'm really sad because, you know, there's no justice for Gabby. There's no justice. There's no justice for the Petito family. And, not that I say we have to have justice. We as people don't need justice for the family. And the people that went down to Brian Landry's family's house and sat outside that family's house, y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. I'm just going to say, y'all should be extremely ashamed of yourselves. There was nothing that you all were going to do by going down there and sitting outside that family's house but making yourselves be something that you weren't. You weren't making the Petito family look any better, and you certainly wasn't making yourselves look any better. It looked tacky and it was horrible. The Petito family spoke for Gabby. That's all they spoke for Gabby. They did all the speaking for Gabby that needed to be done. You all going down there and picketing around that house and doing what you all did was shameful. Shameful. I just pray that the Petito family can have peace in their hearts, and that the Landry family finds peace in their hearts, because they did a huge disservice. They wronged the Petito family. They truly did. And I hope that they can find peace in their lives, because they hid something that shouldn't have been hidden. They're going to have to find peace in their heart, because not only did they lose a son, they also hid the truth. And, God says we shouldn't hide things. We're to live by the law of the land. According to God, we're to live by the law of the land, and we're also supposed to tell the truth. And that family didn't do what they were supposed to. They didn't do Brian right like they were supposed to. Brian had the rights to come forward and say, I did this. And his family protected him. They didn't protect Gabby, and she lived with them as one of them. I don't understand that. Apparently they didn't care about her then, if that's the case. So, I love you guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I am thinking about changing platforms. I have a YouNow. On YouNow, I can see who's watching my channel. I can see who's on there. It's Queen Tina with a 2. It's 2UEENTYNA. If you guys want to come over there, I'm over there sometimes. Add me. You'll be notified when I go live. I don't know anything about YouNow. I'm just using it a little at a time, just whenever I feel like going live. But I wanted to update this and let you guys know how I feel. I love you guys. Share the love I share with you with someone else, and smile at someone. You never know if it's going to change someone's entire day.